Andrew Bainham. I'm a barrister at 14 Gray's Inn Square, and I've been teaching family law in Cambridge University for the last 20 years. About that time, when I joined Cambridge 20 years ago, I had an idea for writing a textbook about children. And that book, Children, the Modern Law, is now in its 4th edition. And for this 4th edition, I've been joined by Stephen Gilmore, who's a specialist in family law, like myself, by Catherine Hollingsworth, who is a specialist in juvenile justice, and by Neville Harris, who specialises in education law. Because all those years ago, it seemed to me that a book on children should cover not simply the mainstream family law areas, but also crucial areas like juvenile crime and education, because of course children spend almost as much time in school as they do with their families. So we now have the 4th edition of Children, the Modern Law. Why should you be interested in reading a book about children? Well, we were all children once, and most of us go on to become parents. And it's that relationship of parents and children which is one of the central relationships in this book. Who is a parent? Is it about a biological connection with the child, or is it about the person who's looking after the child? That's one of the central questions and central themes that runs through the book. What happens when parents separate? How should their care of their children be divided? And what role does the courts have in this? What should happen in relation to medical decisions, important medical questions? If there's a dispute about a medical operation for a child, who should get to decide that question and on what sort of basis? Who should support children financially? Where should the division of responsibility on that be between each of the parents and the state? And on the subject of the state, when should the state be able to intervene to remove children from parents? And if necessary, how should the law assist the state to do that quickly in an emergency if children are in need of immediate protection? Looking beyond family law to some of the wider questions, what about children who are injured by third parties, or children who themselves cause injuries to third parties? How far can children enter into contracts and that they have certain natural disabilities? And what is the position of children before the courts? Are they allowed to appear in the courts? What is the value of any evidence that they may give? What special protections should be given to children who do in fact appear in court? Now, these are all questions which to some extent arose 20 years ago in 1993, but they're all subject to revision and different problems arise. A good example being the growth of assisted reproduction, and the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Act 2008 raised substantial questions, new questions about who a parent is, for example. So there are new areas, new problems, and of course this 4th edition tries to highlight those as well within the context of the fundamental questions which have always arisen.